Hello, hello. This is a test of audio. Still testing audio. Camden's making funny faces.
That's great.
All right. Hello,
Oh,
friends. My name is Hannah Brooks, and I am currently the Vice President of Next Generation Railroaders. And this is the second in our 2025 webinar series, taking deep dives into rail preservation and the rail industry, and how you could get involved. Today, we're going to hear from Howard Pincus. Howard has been involved with heritage railroading for quite some time, since 1969. He's currently an active part of Railroad Museum of New England, where he has served since 1982. Additionally, Howard was one of the primary participants in starting and developing the Naugatuck Railroad operation of RMNE. Over the years, he has restored rolling stock, painted cars and locomotives, raised money, dealt with Class 1 railroads, state agencies, and elected officials. He's fired and operated steam locomotives, maintained track, and wrote and administrated over $3 million of state track rehabilitation grants, plus a bunch of other things. So we're going to hear from him today for about 45 minutes or so. And then we're going to open it up to a question and answer. In order to submit your questions to us, if you go to our website, which is in the description, www.nextgenrr.org, and go to the programs page, you'll see a link to submit your questions there. So without any further ado, I'm going to pass the microphone over to Howard. We'll hear from him.
all right. Thank you very much, Hannah, for that very nice intro and welcome. I am going to start off with a little PowerPoint with some slides showing a little bit about how I got involved in the old train world, as my friend Orrin Hellbach likes to call it, and then transition into some of what we've been involved with at Railroad Museum of New England and the Naugatuck Railroad in Connecticut. So first slide, please. I'm sorry, I didn't get that. Okay. I grew up in northern New Jersey, the Erie Lackawanna, in the backyard of the house across the street. Alco RS3s on commuter trains. That was a train to me. Discovered Trains magazine early on. And in the back of Trains magazine were listings for excursion trips. Had a very wonderful, indulgent set of parents that were willing to feed the train addiction. I don't think they realized quite what they were starting. And we wound up the beginning of May 1963 in Middletown, New York, on the Empire State Railway Museum's operation on the Middletown in New Jersey. Next. So posed for Dad's Polaroid in front of little 103, first steam engine that I rode behind and saw. Hurry up, Dad, and take the picture on it. I want to get back over and look at that locomotive. And the trail led a little further on, and 8 years later, I was firing that engine when it started operating at Essex, Connecticut in 1971. Next slide. With a move to New York City in 1966, I was able to expand my range of roaming, train trips on the various commuter railroads, visits to rail yards. In those days, it was basically just don't get hurt, kid, and don't climb on anything. Otherwise, take all the pictures you want. And that's what I did. I took a lot of pictures and observed a lot about railroads, and actually got a few pictures that I was happy with. This being one of them, nickel plate 759. A couple of days before it took the Golden Spike Centennial Limited west out of Harmon, New York. High Iron was operating the locomotive. It was on lease from Steamtown, USA. Next slide. And between 69 and 70, 71, that was the transition from just taking pictures to starting to put my hands on the iron. A cold January night in Baltimore, I was a gopher. I was doing young guys on the high iron locomotive crew, but it was like having a backstage pass at a Rolling Stones concert. Yes, I'm dating myself. Already exists. I operated that locomotive on the Western Maryland Scenic about 3 years ago, and thought that that number looked familiar. When I went back through the old photo files, there she was. Next one, please. So meanwhile in Connecticut, there was a railroad that operated between Bridgeport and Winsted in the Naugatuck River Valley. Next one. There's a few pictures that we're going to show of what it was like back in the later days of steam on the Naugy line. The next picture will be two trains at Winsted, 1931. Next slide. The passenger train has a mail car, a baggage car, a parlor car, first class parlor car, and two coaches. And it's leaving Winsted, headed south for Waterbury, Bridgeport, through cars for New York. Local freight engine, all nicely polished, sitting on the side track there. This area eventually became a A&P supermarket after the New Haven abandoned the track into Winsted. Next slide. Winsted had a turntable which was set against the side of a hill, kind of an interesting design. This is one of the local freight engines, one of the F5 280 locomotives that the New Haven used in secondary service on these larger branch lines. By the end of the year, it would be headed off to scrap. The diesels were on the way. Next. So this is East Litchfield. The RS3s were new. They were used on local freight. They were used in passenger service. And this is an area where a section of the line that we run today as the Naugatuck Railroad. The side track is still there. Some of the buildings in the background are still there. That was a coal, oil, and lumber dealer that was at East Litchfield. Next one, please. So one of the pieces in RMNE's collection is New Haven Alco RS3 number 529. And this is a picture from 1953 showing it arriving at the Winstead station with the train from Bridgeport. Not only does RMNE have 529, we also have the railway post office car that is right behind the engine. Next one. This is a view of Thomaston, the station area off the rear of the train headed to Winstead. It's departed Thomaston, headed for Torrington as the next stop. 1851 station became the freight house. That's what you see on the left. And the 1881 passenger station is on the right. Next. This is looking in the opposite direction in April 1955. Freight house, passenger station, brass mill on the left in the background. In a few months, the August 1955 flood would cover this area with 10 feet of water. Next one. After the flood, it was decided to build a flood control dam. And this is a picture of the first train across the face of the dam as the dam construction continued. The railroad originally followed the river up the valley, so about 7 miles of it had to be reconstructed and was new railroad in 1959. Next one. By the late 60s, the station was starting to look rather ragged, certainly no maintenance being done on it. The railroad had leased it out to commercial tenants and retained a very small office in one end. Next. Boston and Maine took over the branch line between Waterbury and Torrington in 1982. They operated freight trains and eventually had gotten rid of most of the freight business, and that service ended completely in 1995. Next one. An awful lot of neglect. There was little track maintenance done. There was even less brush cutting done. This is the Thomaston Station area, the way it looked in 1991. But things were about to get even worse. Next one. By 1995, RMNE was in negotiation with Connecticut Department of Transportation to lease and operate the line between Waterbury and Torrington. And we were able to get a save on the building literally at the last moment. They were getting ready to bulldoze the whole works into the basement. And we came along and said, we can do something with this. So, well, all right, here it is, guys. It's all yours. The station was deeded over to the museum. Next one. This is a picture taken last summer, and it's got quite a different appearance from the late 90s, the early 90s. New roof, almost all restored windows and doors, platform canopy supports. A lot of brickwork has been done. The grounds around the station have been cleaned up. There's display rolling stock on the track behind the building. Quite different and very satisfying to have seen it before, during, and after. Next one, please. So while Thomaston Station was falling into a state of ruin, RMNE was a tenant at the Valley Railroad in Essex, Connecticut, and we started looking for a home of our own starting in the very late 1980s. This is a picture showing work at our Saybrook yard. Everything was done outdoors. If it rained, you got wet, and you certainly couldn't do anything involving painting or bare metal or taking windows out of a coach, for example. Next one, please. This is a view of Thomaston Dam looking in the opposite direction from the 1959 picture, and shows one of the springtime excursion trains heading across the dam. Next one, please. Through a combination of day out with Thomas events and some significant support from a couple of our members, significant financial support, we were able to construct the Thomaston Restoration Shop, 180-foot long by 65-foot wide building with a concrete floor and inspection pit. And it became a place where the magic happens. Got us out of the weather. We were able to work on things year-round. This picture shows the shop getting ready to start installing the track rails. Next one, please. This is an outside view of the shop in the yard. One of our volunteers at the time was a civil engineering student at Northeastern University, and he and another fellow who's a land surveyor from Massachusetts, they designed and laid out the yard tracks, the yard switches, the entire arrangement. He went on to work for Amtrak, and he's now a significant player with Genesee in Wyoming, track and bridge engineer for their eastern region. This was his first railroad project almost 20 years ago. And museum volunteers built all the switches, built all the tracks. Drone shot taken by Orion Newall shows the shop building, shows the yard. The main line is between the yard and the river. Next one, please. The kind of work that 10 years ago we would have sent out or called in outside contractors themselves. We have a very capable young shop crew. Having a facility like this makes a huge difference in what you're able to accomplish. This didn't happen overnight, but it was a goal that we had set and worked very steadily to attain. The shop building, the equipment in the shop, and capabilities, the knowledge of how to do these projects. Next one. In 2019 was rolled out in May of 2014, and this is only a portion of the proud crew that worked on making 2019 such a good-looking restoration. Next. Like the caption says, sometimes it's just nice to watch the train go by. Next, please. This is a main central snowplow built 1936. We have used this plow in actual service out on the railroad when we've had heavy snow and the need to run trains. Next, please. That's Orion applying a lettering stencil to the side of the plow. In the upper right corner, you can see some of the battle scars that the plow acquired during its Green Mountain Railroad service. We decided not to make it pristine, but to leave some of that patina on the plow. It helps tell the story. Next, please. And I'll call this one almost finished. If you look closely, you'll see that the side door is a plywood plug. The doors on the plow had significant wood rot, so they wound up being completed after the plow was painted and put on display at the station. We hope to get it finished this year completely. Next one, please. The Bangor and Aroostook State of Maine car was a very complex and extremely satisfying project for everyone this past year. A really, really striking color scheme and lettering scheme on this car. The whole painting process took over 10 days between the various coats of paint, masking, lettering application, etc., etc. Next one, please. More of the stencil masks we were able to obtain from the Bangor and Aroostook and that was used to produce the lettering for the car. Next one, please. Someone once asked me, why do you guys restore all this old stuff? The answer was very simple, so we can roll it out and take pictures of it. This is an example of that. Next one, please. On Duncan. Next one, please. The numbers on our coaches were originally Canadian National cars, and they used an imitation gold number with a 1/8 black outline. And this fellow is doing the black outline by hand with black one-shot lettering enamel, it's called. He learned how to do this. He wasn't born knowing it. It's a skill that can be learned. I'm sure that when he was starting out, he had a few runs and drips and flubs, Next one, please. The mail crane was restored by the fellow on the right a number of years ago. It sat in storage until last year when we installed it in Thomaston. Another one of the volunteers is working from U.S. Post Office blueprints, and he is fabricating one of the specialized mail bags that was used to catch mail on the fly. We have a New Haven mail car, has a catcher hook, and at some point in the not too distant future, we're going to hang up a mail bag and grab it on the fly. The research that went into the mail crane, the research that went into finding the blueprint for the mail bag, it's different than a regular post office mail bag, is all part of the restoration process. Next one, please. One of the things that was always on our, gee, we'd really like to have one of these, it would fit in very well, was a Railway Express truck. And lo and behold, one popped up recently about 40 miles away from us. So we grabbed it. We were able to put the funds together and purchase it. And it needs some more cosmetic work. And it's already been a popular display item. We've been in parades with it, off-site parades, and it's just a wonderful part of the Thomaston station area scene. Next one, please. It's all not locomotives and cars. Track is pretty important also. The crew that was working on this tie insertion project, all in their early 20s. The first couple of days, they weren't very successful with getting a lot of ties in easily, and they gradually learned, and they were instructed by more experienced people. And by the time this project finished, their attitude was, all right, where's the next spot? And we want to really rip into getting some more ties in the track. Medical profession in medical school, there's a saying, see one, do one, teach one. See an operation, do an operation, teach an operation. And that's what we try to do with our employees. Teach, pass the techniques along. Next one, please. We're very fortunate to have a rather pretty railroad, a rather scenic railroad. There's a few spots where we run through people's backyards, but most of it looks very much like this. Next one, please. No presentation on the Naughty would be complete without Turbo. I wonder how we got along before Turbo appeared. He was a rescue from a cat shelter, and he settled in very, very quickly. You can see his various job titles and skills are listed on the left. Next one, please. He has his own Facebook page with about 2,600 followers at last count. And the last one. So that is our PowerPoint presentation. I have a couple of comments I'd like to make, and then I think we can move on to the question section.
Sounds great.
I want to start by referencing Ed's presentation, Rail Preservation 101, the first of this series. Really very, very excellent. Watch it carefully. Watch it again. It literally is the basics for getting involved, being involved in old train world. To someone who is interested in getting involved with rail heritage preservation, restoration, all of this, what you've just seen, what are your motivations? Do you want to be on the train? Do you want to have access for picture taking? A lot of us are photographers. Do you want to bring rusty and rotten old stuff back to life? There's a lot of satisfaction in doing that. You want to do something interesting and different that doesn't involve a screen or an iPhone. What are your interests? How can they fit a given organization? Interested in photography? Document the work. Always needed. Social media, it's great to get the word out to the world. A lot of times the people that are doing the work are literally up to their elbows in dirt and grease, and they don't have the time to take the pictures. And maybe there's someone else who does a much better job on social media. Some of you may have seen the Mount Rainier Scenic Railroad out in Washington State. They are absolutely fantastic at their social media. It's engaging, it's humorous, and in this business, you really need a sense of humor a lot of the time. If you haven't seen it, find them on Facebook, Mount Rainier Scenic Railroad. They are great. Fixing stuff. Are you a gearhead? We've had people who are not necessarily railroad people. They couldn't tell you a GP9 from an RS3, but when you show them a 16-cylinder EMD diesel engine, and particularly the car guys who like to brag about engine displacement, when you tell them that one cylinder is 567 cubic inches, the eyes get very big. Maybe that's your motivation. Train operation. Do you want to get involved in that? Is the organization a common carrier railroad or not? That makes a difference in how that can be approached and how train operation personnel gets approached. Are you a storyteller? Education and exhibits. Anyone that is a nonprofit is an educational and historical organization, and one of our missions is to educate, research and tell the stories. It's all just stuff. It's either rusty stuff or shiny stuff, but it's just stuff without the context, without the story. What is it? Why does it exist? Who made it? Who used it? And that snowplow. Okay, that's pretty obvious what that is and what it does, but how did it work? Did it move itself? When did they decide to take the snowplow out and use it on the Maine Central? The state of Maine products car. What was that all about? Oh, potatoes from Maine to the New York market. Again, it's a story. Equipment restoration. Maybe that's what you're interested in. Research and attention to details. Color matching, finding old blueprints or old documents that give information about parts that are missing. That can be pretty interesting. No one knows everything. We're all learning. I think we should try to learn something each day. Learn skills, particularly for younger people. I dropped out of college and went to work at Electric Boat, manufacturer of submarines in Connecticut, because I thought learning how to weld would be a useful skill in old train work. Learn electrical, learn painting and lettering, woodworking, steelwork, learn how to weld, learn about business and marketing, learn about track, learn how to deal with archives and how to properly preserve three-dimensional artifacts, two-dimensional artifacts. Learning makes you better. It now you know stuff that other people don't, and it shouldn't be lorded over them, but you can now instruct and mentor someone else. The knowledge is useless if it's not passed along. And one of the things that I learned as I was first getting involved with this, a lot of the old timers didn't want to teach 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds about this stuff. I don't want that kid to know too much. He'll take my job, or he'll go off to another place now that he's learned this, that, or the other thing, and take the skills away. No. And through all the years that I've been involved with this, I've always tried to teach and try to instruct and try to pass the knowledge along. It's not going to do any good if it goes in the box with me at the end. A good rail preservation organization will be eager to teach newcomers. Now remember, not everybody's going to be proficient at every job. It's not a matter of we don't like you, so you're not going to be able to do A or B or C. Not everybody can do everything, but there is something for everybody to do, and everything is important. Some people don't want to be front of the house and deal with visitors. They may develop the skills so that they can tune an EMD diesel engine and have it running like a fine Swiss timepiece. But dealing with the public, no, not for them. There are other people that very much enjoy interacting with visitors, telling them the stories, giving tours, working as car hosts on board the train. There is an old saying that my grandmother had: a lid for every pot. There is a fit for everything that you might be interested in. There's crappy jobs. Yes, they need to be done. You will get to ride the engine. You will probably get to ride the engine so much that you will get tired of riding the engine and you will want to do something else. In 1969, I went with a friend of mine out to a Black River in Western New Jersey. It was the first time I had been to a heritage railroad. He owned a Jersey Central coach, and that's when I learned about stripping old paint and varnish inside a passenger car in July. And I was watching this older fellow walking along the station platform. He'd occasionally stop and pick up cigarette butts off the platform. And I asked my friend, who's that guy? Oh, that's Sam Freeman. He's the chairman and he owns 148, one of the steam engines, and a few other things here. Sam Freeman was very involved in historic railroading and starting the Black River and Western and a couple of other railroads in the 60s and 70s and the very early 80s. And that was a lesson that stuck with me that day and ever since, that you should never be so self-important that you can't stop to pick up the cigarette butts, figuratively or literally. If you get involved and you stay involved, you're part of something that can be very interesting. It can be very exciting. It can be cool. It can be routine. It can occasionally be a lot of drudgery. Anybody that's ever picked up what some of us call a death cannon, aka a needle scaler. I see Hannah has a rather knowing smile about that piece of equipment. You will get a lot of satisfaction at the end of the day. You look back and you've left something a little bit better than it was when you started. You've gotten 50 ties in the main line. You've gotten another 20 or 30 square feet of the frame of that steam locomotive needle scale. You've gotten 6 more coach windows installed. You've gotten that boxcar painted. Our visitors and our customers, they want to be entertained. They also want to learn a little bit at the same time. And it is up to us to provide them with a visitor experience that makes everyone feel welcome, that sends everyone home with a smile, and for volunteers and our employees. Do you want to come back the following and get right back into it? Do you think about it during the week? Yeah, it can be really, really rewarding. It really can be. That's pretty much my spiel. And I guess we can start with the questions.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, that was almost bang on time, so I'm very impressed. So we have been getting a lot of lovely questions. If you missed it at the beginning, in the description is the link to our website, www.nextgenrr.org, and you can go to the program page and find the link for the question submission. So if you have a burning question to ask Howard, please use that to send it to me. So it looks like there's a couple of people who want to know if you have advice for newly formed nonprofit groups who are starting from scratch. Maybe they have really limited resources. And what advice would you give to someone starting in the world of railroad preservation? What helps to know to be successful?
Well, to address the new organization starting out, you need ironclad nonprofit governance. You need a good attorney that understands a nonprofit and can set up your organization properly. You need to, quite frankly, look around old train world and see what has gone on at other places that find themselves in trouble. Um, we're all going to make our own mistakes. I mean, we've certainly made more than a few over the last 30 some odd years, but try to learn from the other people's mistakes. If anybody follows on our Railway Preservation News, RYPN, or on Facebook, Wilmington and Western, which was one of the oldest steam excursion lines. I think they started in the mid '60s. They're in some pretty deep yogurt right now. Uh, poor governance, poor governance, and losing sight of their core values. I won't even say mission, but their core values. Get your governance straightened out. You need to the degree that you possibly can, either own or have virtually ironclad control of your property. That means not just your locomotives and cars and other equipment assets, but your property. We own the Thomaston Station and 2 acres of land that it sits on. We don't own the railroad, but we have a very long-term lease with the state of Connecticut for the railroad. Are there other nonprofits that may not even be railroad related, but perhaps historical organizations in your area that you can partner with? You need to have friends. You need to have colleagues. Trying to do this all on your own from scratch, it can become pretty daunting pretty quickly. So, be flexible and consider partnerships with other organizations, not necessarily even other rail organizations. I hope that answers the question. Anybody that is interested, by the way, in finding out more about any of this in more detail, hopefully not excruciating detail, just contact me offline and I'll do my best to help. I think the other question was about recruitment of new members and new volunteers.
Yeah, we had a question about how do you go about advertising to bring in new volunteers, donors, riders, especially when you're not in a huge populated area, or even when you are. Like, how do you market yourself to find people who would be good volunteers?
It to use a word, it depends. We're in an area where we are of probably 5 or 6. We have in Connecticut, which is a pretty small state, we have one 55-year-old privately held excursion railroad. We have 2 trolley museums. We have our own organization. We have 2 railroad museums that have limited operation within their own yard facilities. We have at least one private, not connected with the general system railroad attraction located on a 300-acre farm. It's a small area, and there's an awful lot of old train activity. If you're not interested in trolley cars, you're probably not going to go to one of the electric railway museums. people find out about an organization from things like the train show, you must go to Springfield. You must go to Springfield as an exhibitor. There's no question about it. You have to have a presence there. We've had some really great volunteers and employees come in as friends of existing volunteers and employees. So and so is a gearhead, and I know a fellow that might be interested in this stuff. And once again, you bring someone down, show them the kind of big iron that we're working on, and a lot of times the hook is set and they get reeled in. Deal with some of the railroad historical groups, the groups that specialize in, say, the Boston and Maine or the New Haven. A lot of them are modelers. A lot of modelers are not necessarily that interested in the real thing, but there are some that are. One of the things that we're currently exploring is expanding internships, particularly with some of the local colleges and universities, not just for the ironworking, if you will, but internships with people that are perhaps in a hotel or hospitality and marketing program. Perfect for what we need to get people to come through the door and pay money to visit and pay money to ride the train. And, no butts in seats, no money for stay bolts, no money for Imron paint. Marketing's pretty important. One of the lessons we learned 10 years ago, for years we had done our own marketing. And we always wondered, why aren't we carrying more people? We should be carrying more people. And lo and behold, when we decided to stop with the cranial rectal inversion, we actually got a real professional marketing company. We paid them money, and the results were astounding. So sometimes, don't try to do everything in-house. We could probably make our own steel and roll our own rails, but is that really the best use of our resources? Long answer to a short question, I know.
That's okay. We have someone, I know that you've addressed this a couple different ways, but perhaps recapping all in one place. This person asks, for someone looking to get more involved with railroading as a profession, what are your suggestions or things to look for?
Excellent question. As you saw in the slides, the fellow who laid out our yard as an engineering student, he was in Railway Age magazine not long ago as one of they run an article every year. People under 40 in the railroad business to watch. He was one of them. There are probably 8 or 10 people over the years who started as volunteers with us and went on to careers in the railroad business. The fastest way to no longer be involved with old trains is to go to work for a railroad. When you do it 5 days or 6 days a week, the last thing you want to see on your day off is a train. But it's a good way to get exposed to the industry. If you remember from the beginning of the slideshow, when I was young, you could roam around, you could get cab rides, you could ride cabooses, you could wander through roundhouses and engine terminals, and you generally didn't get thrown out. Nowadays, railroading is very different. There's cameras everywhere. You step foot off a station platform. Oh my God, you're trespassing. Um, it's become very regimented. It's always been dangerous. Um, but on a small railroad, on a short line railroad, particularly on a heritage railroad, it's back to being approachable railroading. Um, our excursion train comes back to the station and our passengers detrain. And, occasionally there's that wide-eyed kid, boy and girl on the platform and they're looking up at the locomotive. And the next thing you know, they're up in the engine cab and they're talking about, in some cases, they start on and on about what kind of a locomotive it is and how much horsepower, and we're off to the races. Bring them back, Dad, and or Mom, in a couple of years, and there's our volunteers. So if you're interested in the railroad business, it's a good way to learn about what a lot of it is like. A lot of what we do is going to be very different than what you would find as an employee on Metro North or CSX or Amtrak. But there's a lot of rail buffs in the industry, a lot.
Yeah. And I think the next question is, it makes my heart warm. And it says, can you describe the importance of quote unquote small victories as it relates to the rate of speed in which rail preservation often moves? And I think anyone who's ever been part of rail preservation probably feels this pain.
Well, one of the things I like to say is that restorations move at the speed of money. There was a phrase in a movie about the beginning of the space program in the U.S. No bucks, no Buck Rogers. It's a resource. Major contributors years ago said, you're not in the railroad museum business. You're in the business of allocating scarce resources. And he's right. Resources, money, space, time, personnel. It's all resources. It's all a juggling act. I would love to wave a magic wand and by a week from today have everything restored and finished and displayable, but it's not going to happen that way. You do the best you can with the hand that you're dealt. Our state of Maine car, we received that from the Bangor and Aroostook in 1989. It was restored in 2024. Sometimes it takes a new member, a new volunteer who's willing to take on a project and run with it to make things happen. We're not afraid to put young people in charge. When we came back from the pandemic in 2021, one of our volunteers and at that point an employee had a lot of ideas about how to revamp the passenger operation from what we had previously been doing. And we decided, you know what, you've got a lot of good ideas. You are now in charge of the entire passenger operation. Tell the board what resources you need. We will stand by the edge of the swimming pool now that we've thrown you in the deep end. We'll stand there with a couple of life rings should you need it. But, let's see what you can do. And my goodness, we were off to the races. Fantastic. things take time. You know, we've certainly got projects of our own that we refer to as hanger queens that I only partly joke about wanting to see it before I croak, see it finished before I croak. So um, it's there's no one formula for everything.
Thank you. That was a lovely answer to that question. We have just one more question that's been submitted, and I can't tell if it's a little cheeky or not. So I will let you. You have full reign to say no comment if that is how you would prefer to answer. They just ask,
Okay.
what's the story with the GP9s?
What's the story with our famous Norfolk and Torrington GP9s? Yeah, we catch a lot of flack for that. They're not owned by the museum. They're not considered museum pieces, although we did what I would consider to be a museum quality refurbishment, not restoration, of 859. They're effectively tools like a tamper or a tie inserter or a high rail truck. They're easily maintained. They're easily supportable. They were able to be obtained and put into service pretty quickly. Yes, we have a Boston and Maine GP9 that is an uncompleted project that's been languishing, which will eventually be finished. Our New Haven RS3 is another project that has taken a lot longer than everybody expected. We needed a couple of good pieces of reliable motive power, and they were available. They were purchased privately, and they're leased to the railroad company. They pull freight, they pull passenger trains, and they're very easily maintainable. That's the story behind the GP9.
That's the story. We got it. Well, that is it for questions. Howard, I just want to thank you so much for talking with us today. I've learned so much. And for everyone who's listening, this is part 2 of our webinar series for the year. You can go and see the first one on our website. Like Howard said, it might need more than one view. It's really rich. And we will be having the 3rd installment in May. So look out for the emails. And if you're not signed up already, you can sign up for our mailing list on our website. And with that, I'm going to say good night. Bye, guys.